Good morning. I'm Robin Pingol, and this is the impact of health monitoring technology on American youth. The research question is, how do health monitoring devices influence the well-being of adolescents in the United States? For some background, health monitoring devices are devices that provide analytics on users' health, whether that be information on heart rate, calories burned, or the amount of steps taken that day. They're part of a network called the Internet of Things, which, according to Matt Burgess of Wired, gathers information, analyzes it, and creates an action. These devices include wearable and portable technology, like the fitness tracker. But how exactly does that affect today's youth, whose lives are consumed by tech? To begin with, health technology results in a loss of motivation for physical activity. According to a study examining the effects of Fitbits on teenagers, and it is also shown on the highlighted portion of this table, that the results identified reduced levels of motivation. This is important because one of the main reasons as to why these devices are created is to motivate users to exercise more. However, for teenagers, it was found that that actually isn't the case. For example, a student named Kiara explained that noticing she hasn't reached her step goal didn't actually motivate her to put in more steps. As you can see, the picture on the right shows how the Fitbit displays information to its users. It shows how many steps you've taken and how far away you are from your goal. It would seem like seeing this incomplete circle would motivate teens. However, it has the adverse effect, and it can be demotivating for teenagers to see that they haven't accomplished their goal, leading them to procrastinate or to just give up and move on to something else. Now, from a scientific standpoint, humans are accustomed to comparing themselves and their worth to those around them. This chart here shows the outcomes of social comparison. As you can see, there are both positive and negative effects. Although there is positive comparison, negative comparison in today's age is much more dominant. That detail aside, the negative effects of comparison are dissatisfaction, envy, and scorn. This relates back to teenagers, as when they utilize their fitness trackers due to an urge to compare, they try to match their stats to those around them. If they don't like what they see, it can turn into feelings of jealousy and ultimately lead to competition. And while a little competition isn't a bad thing, unhealthy competition is. And that mindset to be the best and compete can turn into obsession, which can then lead into the development of unhealthy habits and behaviors. When teenagers constantly compete and compare themselves against their peers, their overall self-esteem lowers. And when their self-esteem lowers, their perception of themselves changes and becomes negative. For example, how they view their body. According to National Eating Disorders Organization, research indicates that body dissatisfaction is the best known contributor to the development of eating disorders such as anorexia nervosa and bulimia nervosa. And while it's beneficial for teens to keep track of their health, it's important to note that teenagers are just kids and shouldn't have to worry about their image or pin themselves up against their peers. And in today's technology-run world, health devices such as fitness trackers contribute to that. In essence, health monitoring devices create a number of complications for the teen. It results in decreased motivation, social competition and comparison, as well as the development of psychological conditions and disorders. This proves that health monitoring devices are a negative influence on the teen's physical as well as mental well-being. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Of course, I have two questions for you. The first question is, how valid and reliable were the sources that you used, and how do you know that they were?
I feel like the sources that I used were very reliable because when I was doing my research, I would use engines such as Google Scholar and Pew Research, and on top of that, I would do even more extensive and thorough research on the creators of the sources or the authors, and I would make sure that they were reputable and educated enough to speak on the topic.
Okay, and if you were giving advice to somebody that was making a presentation on this topic in the future, what would you say to them?
My advice to other researchers considering this topic would be to research into teenagers from other countries, because teenagers from other countries is just a whole new perspective, and it could be in other countries, fitness trackers or health monitoring devices could be a positive influence. And that sort of raises the question, what could the US do to change the negative influence of fitness trackers to a positive one?